Europe is heading for total and utter destruction.
Reporting live from the Civil War. Everyone's angry, smells like death, and I just stepped in something I hope was mud.
Many experts have been warning for years now that a civil war is impending. But I believe that our reality is actually worse than that. In a civil war, there are two sides fighting. Here in Europe, only one side is. And I can tell you that it's not us. It's not the white native population of Europe.
Experts predict the European migrant crisis could trigger a war within the continent. As Europe takes in millions of undocumented migrants, not only the terror threat, but the threat of mass civil unrest increases within its borders.
Europe is a different place. Europe is changing. Europe has got to get its act together. I love Europe. I guess I came from Europe, essentially. I have my roots are in Europe.
In 2022, the European Union's foreign minister, Josep Borrell, said famously that Europe was a garden, contrasting it to the rest of the world, which he called a jungle. He took a lot of heat for that. Economic prosperity, political freedom, and social cohesion flourish inside the garden, in contrast to the jungle outside.
To many of us on the other side of the Atlantic, it looks more and more like old entrenched interests, hiding behind ugly Soviet-era words like misinformation and disinformation, who simply don't like the idea that somebody with an alternative viewpoint might express a different opinion or, God forbid, vote a different way, or even worse, win an election.
It's this arrogance that makes what I'm about to say very alarming. Europe could be on the brink of all-out civil war.
The war everyone said would never happen is already here. But it's not between nations, it's inside them. In cities like Paris, Berlin, and Stockholm, the front lines don't run between countries. They run through neighborhoods, through classrooms, through dinner tables. On one side, centuries of European secularism, liberal democracy, and cultural pride. On the other, a growing confident generation raised with different values, religious, communal, uncompromising. Riots, clashes, car burnings, prayer calls echoing through streets where church bells used to ring. This isn't just immigration gone wrong, this is two civilizations trying to share the same space and failing.
How do we know? Well, because of three factors: immigration, economic decline, and the loss of trust in institutions. Immigration is tearing the West apart. President Trump came to power promising to build the wall. He tapped into a feeling that migrants are replacing natives and threatening their power, language, and culture, and no one voted for that. In his article, War Comes to the West, Dr. David Betts says this, quote, "The most unstable are moderately homogeneous societies, particularly when there is a perceived change in the status of a titular majority or a significant minority which possesses the wherewithal to revolt on its own." Unquote. The numbers don't lie. The U.S. white population has dropped from 80% in 1980 to 60% in 2020. White births are only about 50% of the yearly total, and there are officially 15 million illegal immigrants in the U.S., although that number is likely higher. In France, the foreign-born population is between 10 and 13%. In the UK, it's 16%, and in Germany, it is nearly 20%. Murders, rapes, and violent crimes continue to take place in cities across the United States. President Trump has deployed the National Guard to Washington, D.C., and citizens are jailed for speaking out on social media. They feel like strangers in their own country, and poor strangers at that.
The issue is free speech. Washington accused Starmer's government of imposing major restrictions on expression in record time. And the very first example they pointed to was the government's forceful handling of the Southport riots. Instead of opening debate, Starmer's team leaned on social media companies, including American ones, to delete posts they said were spreading misinformation. For the United States, that crossed a line. They viewed it as state-backed censorship, the kind of conduct Britain used to criticise in other nations. and the word Washington chose for it was grievous, a sign that even allies now believe Britain has gone beyond simple errors and stepped into systemic abuse.
Across the West, real wages have stagnated while income inequality has skyrocketed. Since 1979, wages for the bottom 90% of the population in the United States have grown 15% compared to 138% for the top 1%. Combine that with deindustrialization and the threat of AI, and there is a growing feeling that things will never get better. Meanwhile, citizens see their governments as illegitimate. Confidence in voting and elections is plummeting. A majority of Trump voters believe that the Democrats stole the 2020 election, while a majority of Democrats believe that Donald Trump stole the 2016 election.
Start with a virus, import it into America, talk about it nonstop, call some governors, nod them, that's your guys. Put patients into nursing homes, kill thousands, blame the president, keep blaming, blame some more, lock down small business, kill the economy, push mail-in voting, stoke a race war, call for riots, pick a candidate, no, not her, yeah, that's more like it, lock him in his basement, shield him from the press, don't cover this, don't cover this, don't cover this, keep doing that, ignore the economic recovery, downplay the world peace, pump the polls, pump, don't stop pumping, install your software in swing states. That was fast. Take control of polling stations, call off the election when you're losing, kick everyone out, pull out all the extra ballots, get the software to do its thing, get the media to say it's over, call the big tech guys, ban anyone who notices, act like the whole thing never happened. Stealing the most powerful republic in the world. It's that easy.
It's no better in the European Union, where courts overturned a recent Romanian presidential election.
It looks like the EU and the United States are so mad at each other, Trump decided to release a bunch of documents showing that the EU in Brussels is stealing elections from conservative parties in about almost all of Europe. Okay, as you can see, Ireland 2024 and 2025, Netherlands 2023 and 2025, France 2024. Man, they had an opportunity to get rid of that dude. Then you have, Slovakia 2023, Moldova 2024, and Romania 2024. Wow.
Yeah, you can't lie like the EU is lying without censorship. It's impossible. So of course they can't have X, which is formerly Twitter, as everyone knows. And when it was Twitter, it was part of this censorship industrial complex.
It's disgraceful. It's disgusting. And it's not to be tolerated. X has got to get a grip of this. And Ofcom have at full support to take action in relation to this. This is wrong. It's unlawful. We're not going to tolerate it. I've asked for all options to be on the table. It's disgusting.
Put all of this together and what do you get? You get a spiral into civil war across the West. As Professor David Betts puts it, we used to have homogeneous, functioning societies. Now, quote, by contrast, all are now incohesive political entities, jigsaw puzzles of competing identity-based tribes living in large part in virtually segregated communities, competing over diminishing societal resources, increasingly, obviously, and violently.
Certain places in Europe are not even recognizable, frankly, anymore. They're not recognizable. And we can argue about it, but there's no argument. Friends come back from different places, I don't want to insult anybody, and say, I don't recognize it. And that's not in a positive way, that's in a very negative way. And I love Europe, and I want to see Europe go good, but it's not heading in the right direction. In recent decades, it became conventional wisdom in Washington and European capitals that the only way to grow a modern Western economy was through ever-increasing government spending, unchecked mass migration, and endless foreign imports. The consensus was that so-called dirty jobs and heavy industry should be sent elsewhere, that affordable energy should be replaced by the Green New Scam. and their countries could be propped up by importing new and entirely different populations from faraway lands. There's no fear of Europe. You know, Europe's fallen behind, and Europe, and JD said it very strongly. I don't know, he took a lot of heat, but I didn't give him any heat. Europe is a different place. Europe is changing. Europe has got to get its act together. I love Europe. I guess I came from Europe, essentially. My roots are in Europe. But they have to be very careful with their immigration policy, and they have to be because, I will just say, to be nice, that there are certain places in Europe that are very important that are no longer recognizable. I'm being very nice, I'm being very diplomatic when I say that. They are not recognizable.
And yet mass migration continues. We've been robbed of everything our ancestors died to protect. Our identity is treated as a problem to be solved, not a people worth preserving. We must remember who we are and where we come from. Demand remigration and demand your country back.